My ex claimed I was cheating and faked a pregnancy, but the truth was even worse. I never thought I'd be the guy writing a story like this. I was always the type to keep my head down and get on with things, figuring that, as long as I was doing the right thing, life would work itself out. But, like so many others before me, I learned the hard way that things don't always turn out the way you expect. Especially when it comes to love. So, here's how it all went down. I first met Sarah at a mutual friend's party. She was the life of the party, engaging in conversations with everyone and exuding a warmth that was magnetic. I was drawn to her immediately. We struck up a conversation about our favorite movies, and before I knew it, hours had passed. We exchanged numbers and went our separate ways, but I couldn't stop thinking about her. Our relationship blossomed quickly. We were inseparable, spending nearly every day together. It was easy to be with Sarah. We enjoyed the same music, had similar tastes in food, and shared many of the same values. From the beginning, it felt like we were on the same wavelength. She was smart, funny, and had this incredible ability to make everyone around her feel special. As our relationship progressed, we talked about our future. We both enjoyed traveling, trying new foods, and spending quiet nights in. It seemed like we had everything figured out. We began making plans, talking about our dreams and aspirations, and envisioning a life together. We both saw a future in which we would support and care for each other, building a life filled with love and laughter. But as time went on, things started to shift. Sarah's behavior began to change. At first, it was subtle, little comments about me spending time with friends or getting home late. She would ask me who I was talking to and why. I attributed it to normal relationship jitters. I thought it was just her way of dealing with her insecurities. However, these comments soon escalated into accusations. She would confront me about every interaction I had with other people, questioning my loyalty and honesty. I found myself walking on eggshells, trying to avoid any situation that might provoke her jealousy. It was exhausting, but I loved her and wanted to make things work. Despite my efforts to reassure her, the accusations continued. I found myself constantly defending my actions and trying to prove that I was faithful. It seemed like no matter what I did, it was never enough. Sarah's need for reassurance became overwhelming, and I began to feel trapped. Then, one day, Sarah dropped a bombshell. She was pregnant. The news was a complete shock to me. We had never seriously discussed starting a family so soon. We had talked about having children in the future, but this wasn't part of our plan. I was filled with a mix of emotions, fear, excitement, and confusion. I wasn't ready to be a father, but Sarah was adamant that this was happening. She seemed excited about the news, and her enthusiasm made it difficult for me to voice my concerns. Despite my fears, I decided to step up. I knew that if Sarah was pregnant, I needed to be there for her and for the child we were about to bring into the world. I started making plans, researching everything I needed to know about parenting, and preparing for the responsibilities of fatherhood. I wanted to support Sarah and ensure that we were ready for this new chapter in our lives. But as the weeks went by, something didn't feel right. Sarah's behavior became increasingly erratic. She was more emotional and demanding, and her insecurities seemed to deepen. It became clear that the pregnancy was taking a toll on her, but her reactions were confusing. She would have outbursts of anger followed by periods of withdrawal, and I found myself struggling to keep up. One of the first things that struck me as odd was the lack of typical pregnancy symptoms. Sarah didn't seem to experience any of the usual signs: no morning sickness, no cravings, no fatigue. When I asked her about it, she would brush it off with vague explanations. "I'm just tired," she'd say, or "I'm not feeling too bad." I was concerned, but I didn't want to push her too hard. I thought maybe she was just one of the lucky ones who didn't suffer from pregnancy symptoms. Then there was the issue of doctor's appointments. I suggested several times that we should start seeing a doctor regularly. It was important to me to ensure that both Sarah and the baby were healthy. But every time I brought it up, Sarah had an excuse. "I've been meaning to make an appointment," she'd say. The clinic was full. Days turned into weeks, and no appointment was ever scheduled. My concern grew, but I didn't want to seem like I was doubting her. I loved her and wanted to believe everything was okay. Sarah's behavior continued to be unpredictable. She was often out for hours without telling me where she was going. When I asked, she would give me vague answers: "I was at the store," or "I went to see a friend." But her stories didn't always add up. I began to notice inconsistencies in her explanations. For example, one time she said she was at a friend's house, but when I mentioned it to the friend later, they seemed confused and said they hadn't seen Sarah in weeks. The growing mistrust began to erode our relationship. I felt like I was constantly on edge, unsure of what was real and what was not. Despite my attempts to communicate openly with Sarah, Every conversation seemed to lead to an argument. Her accusations of infidelity became more frequent and more intense, making me question whether I was actually doing something wrong. I decided to take a proactive approach. I wanted to be supportive and show that I was committed to the relationship and to becoming a father. I even suggested that we attend a parenting class together to better prepare for the baby. But Sarah's response was dismissive. "I don't think we need that," she said. "We can figure it out on our own." At this point, I was feeling increasingly isolated. I had friends who were supportive, but I didn't want to burden them with my relationship issues. I tried to keep everything together, but the strain was becoming too much. Sarah's unpredictable behavior and constant accusations were taking a toll on my mental and emotional well-being. One evening, Sarah wasn't home when I returned from work. I checked my phone and saw a notification on her phone, a text message from someone named Ryan. Normally, I wouldn't have snooped. But the stress and the growing sense of distrust had made me more suspicious than I wanted to be. I picked up her phone and read the message. "I had such a great time last night. Can't wait to see you again." My heart sank. I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. I tried to process what I had just read. Was Sarah seeing someone else? Had she been unfaithful while pretending to be pregnant with my child? My mind was racing, and I felt a mix of anger, confusion, and betrayal. When Sarah came home later that night, I confronted her. I tried to stay calm, but my voice was filled with hurt. "Who is Ryan?" I asked. "I saw the message on your phone. What's going on?" Her reaction was immediate. Her face went pale, and she looked like a deer caught in headlights. She stammered, "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb, Sarah. I saw the text. Who is Ryan?" I demanded. Her defenses crumbled, and she burst into tears. "I'm so sorry, Mike. It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen. I was feeling so lonely and neglected, and I made a terrible mistake." "A mistake?" I repeated, my voice rising. "You've been accusing me of cheating, of not being there for you, and you were the one cheating behind my back?" "I know, I'm sorry," she cried. "I didn't know what to do. I was scared of losing you, and I didn't handle it well." I was reeling. The magnitude of her betrayal was overwhelming. I had been preparing for a future that didn't even exist, while she had been living a lie. But there was more. The message from Ryan was just the tip of the iceberg. "Is the baby even real?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Is it mine?" Sarah looked down, her sobs slowing. I'm not sure. I thought I was pregnant at first, but then I wasn't. I didn't know how to tell you. I was afraid you'd leave me if you found out the truth." My world spun. Everything I thought I knew was unraveling before my eyes. All the plans, the preparations, the sacrifices, I had been living a lie. Sarah had manipulated me with a fake pregnancy, using it as a way to keep me tied to her while she was unfaithful. The weight of Sarah's confession was almost too much to bear. I felt a mixture of anger, betrayal, and a deep sense of loss. I had given everything to this relationship, only to find out that it was built on lies. The trust that had once been the foundation of our relationship was now completely shattered. "I can't do this anymore," I said, my voice cold and final. "I can't be with someone who would lie to me like this. We're done." Sarah's pleas fell on deaf ears. Her tears were genuine, but they couldn't undo the damage that had been done. I felt a strange mix of liberation and heartbreak as I packed up my belongings. The apartment that had once felt like a cozy sanctuary now seemed like a prison filled with the echoes of broken promises. As I walked out the door, a wave of relief washed over me. The burden of deceit was finally lifting, but the pain of betrayal remained. I didn't know where to go or what to do next. My thoughts were a jumbled mess, but I knew that leaving Sarah was the only way forward. The weeks following the breakup were a whirlwind of emotions. I found myself grappling with a profound sense of loss and confusion. The life I had envisioned with Sarah was gone, replaced by a reality filled with uncertainty. I sought solace in friends and family, confiding in them about the heartbreak I was experiencing. My friends were understanding and supportive, offering a listening ear and practical advice. They helped me navigate the emotional turbulence and encouraged me to focus on myself. It was through their support that I began to regain my sense of identity and purpose. As time passed, I started to come to terms with what had happened. I threw myself into my work, finding comfort in the routine and the opportunity to focus on something other than my personal turmoil. I also began exploring new interests and hobbies, trying to rediscover the passions that had been overshadowed by the chaos of the past months. One day, I found myself looking back at the relationship with a clearer perspective. I realized that Sarah's actions, though painful, had ultimately revealed important truths about our compatibility and about myself. The experience taught me valuable lessons about trust, self-worth, and the importance of honest communication in a relationship. I also began to understand that healing would take time. It wasn't something that could be rushed or forced. I allowed myself to feel the pain, but I also made a conscious effort to move forward and embrace the opportunities that lay ahead. The healing process wasn't linear. There were days when I felt overwhelmed by the weight of the past, but there were also days filled with hope and optimism. I started setting new goals for myself, focusing on personal growth and self-improvement. Months later, I found myself in a better place. I had worked through much of the pain and had gained valuable insights from the experience. I was ready to embrace the future with a renewed sense of hope and clarity. It was during this period of self-discovery that I met someone new. Her name was Emma, and she was kind, thoughtful, and genuine. Our connection was natural, and there was a sense of ease in our interactions that I hadn't felt in a long time. We took things slowly, allowing our relationship to develop at its own pace. As my relationship with Emma grew, I found myself reflecting on the lessons I had learned from my past. I was more mindful of my boundaries and more attentive to the dynamics of our relationship. I made a conscious effort to communicate openly and honestly, building a foundation of trust and respect. Emma and I shared many interests and values, and our relationship was built on a solid foundation of mutual understanding. It was a refreshing change from the turbulence of my previous relationship, and it gave me hope for the future. Looking back, I can see how the challenges I faced with Sarah were a catalyst for personal growth. The experience was painful, but it ultimately led me to a deeper understanding of myself and what I want in a relationship. I learned the importance of trust, honesty, and self-respect. In the end, the ordeal with Sarah taught me that while love can be complicated and challenging, it should never be based on lies or deceit. A healthy relationship is built on a foundation of mutual respect, trust, and genuine connection. Today, I'm grateful for the lessons I learned and for the opportunity to start anew. My journey has been one of growth and self-discovery, and I'm excited to see where the future will take me. The pain of the past is behind me, and I'm looking forward to embracing the possibilities of the present and the future. Life has a way of surprising us, and while we can't always control the outcomes, we can choose how we respond to them. My experience with Sarah was a challenging chapter in my life, but it was also one that shaped me into a stronger and more self-aware person. As I move forward, I carry with me the lessons learned and the hope for a brighter future. I'm ready to face whatever comes next, knowing that I have the strength and resilience to navigate life's twists and turns. And as I look ahead, I do so with a heart open to new possibilities and a mind focused on creating a future filled with honesty, love, and fulfillment. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed these Reddit stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next one.